The ethical violations and crimes of Sonja Farak, which take place in Boston, Massachusetts. Before her life as a forensics chemist, Sonja Farak had been depressed for most of her life and not responding to her medicine, leading her to attempt suicide and cause for hospitalization in college. She graduated from Worcester Polytechnic Institute with a degree in biochemistry. This allowed her to work in a forensics laboratory as a chemist. Before her arrest, she worked at the Hinton Laboratory, the same laboratory Annie Dukin worked at, and the straight drug laboratory called Amherst Laboratory. Her responsibilities as a chemist involved testing for authenticity of various controlled substances submitted by law enforcement agencies. She also shared her duty with law enforcement to zealously protect each sample she tested as it made its way to court. Farak's decreased performance at work, everyday conflict with her wife, and moments of self-harm made her feel like an alien, and she started drugs as her coping mechanism. Her drug use started when she took liquid methamphetamines, and then she began to consume the laboratory's drugs. The Amherst laboratory did not have proper quality assurance. It was decrepit and mismanaged, with no routine audits and placed no cameras in the hallways. Employees had carte blanche access to the drug safe. Farak was able to use up nearly all the methamphetamine standard, smoke crack in the restroom, and cook batches of it beneath the laboratory's only fume hood. After realizing she had a problem, Farak sought treatment for her drug use, but then began to tamper with her colleagues' samples. Colleagues became suspicious of Farak's drug use. A search at Farak's desk found torn mailers that contained what was left of drug evidence and a makeshift crack pipe. Each time she snorted or smoked drugs, she committed theft of narcotics from a dispensary and possession of a Class B drug, while also committing a felony, which was tampering with evidence. These discoveries caused for the Amherst laboratory to be shut down because it was found not to be credible. She was arrested from the courthouse during her lunch break. She pleaded guilty and served only 15 months of her 18-month sentence. Farak's arrest caused for up to 40,000 criminal cases to be questioned. These cases causing the question could be dismissed. 5 years after her imprisonment, the people she helped imprison did not know that she was arrested for tampering with evidence. While the main ethical violation is Farak using drugs, Assistant Attorney General Anne Kaczmarek began to commit ethical violations herself regarding the Farak case. Kaczmarek blocked those who were curious about the case because it would allow them to get information that people were wrongly convicted. When Sergeant Joseph Ballou, a detective working with Kaczmarek, told her that Farak had been tampering with drugs since 2005, her response was, "Please don't let this get more complicated than we thought. If she were suffering from back injury, maybe she took some oxys." Later in 2013, Kaczmarek would ask a friend from the Inspector General's office to not investigate the Amherst laboratory. Prosecutors also had a role in hiding Farak's drug use. Prosecutors had had evidence that Farak used drugs a year prior to her arrest. Prosecutors are upholders of the law, but in this case did not. Even though they had the evidence, they allowed Farak to be an expert witness. Farak was not responding to her prescribed medication. The illegal drugs Farak was using was helping with her depression, self-harm, and making her not feel like an alien. The fact that the Amherst laboratory had had bad quality assurance allowed her to obtain the drugs. If the quality assurance was better, Farak would not have been able to get the drugs, meaning that the criminal cases she tested would not be called into question. Questions regarding the case. Only Sonja Farak was prosecuted for her crimes. Should those like Kaczmarek be prosecuted for hiding evidence? Because the Amherst laboratory is state-ran, is it the state's fault for not having quality assurance or the supervisors of the laboratory? Should the state of Massachusetts dismiss the criminal cases Farak tested?